We are Brent and April, and welcome to Pickleball Partner, the podcast. So, if you played, pickleball for 2 hours yesterday, you probably walked off the court sweating, smiling, and feeling like you definitely got better at the sport. But from a neurological standpoint, you might have just permanently damaged your backhand.
Yeah, it is really the ultimate athletic paradox.
Huh?
We are deeply conditioned by this culture of hustle to believe that raw court time is the ultimate teacher.
Right, exactly. You just put in the hours.
Exactly. You show up, you rotate in, you play match after match, and you just sort of assume the skill will naturally accumulate through osmosis.
Yeah, you get into the local park, you're tapping paddles, getting caught in those fast-paced kitchen exchanges, and it feels incredibly productive. But the reality we are exploring today completely flips that conventional wisdom upside down.
It really does.
We are going to look at why that casual recreational play, the stuff that honestly feels the most fun, is actively sabotaging your technique.
Because when you're just playing games, you aren't training, you are exercising. And those are two fundamentally different activities that demand entirely different things from your brain and your body.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Casual games are, wonderful for your cardiovascular health and your social life, but they are a developmental trap if your goal is to actually raise your skill ceiling.
I want to dig into the mechanics of that trap right off the bat, because to a lot of people listening, it sounds crazy. If I want to get better at hitting a pickleball, shouldn't I just try to hit as many pickleballs as humanly possible before the sun goes down? Why does casual play actively reinforce bad habits?
To understand that, we have to look at what happens to your nervous system when you step onto a court to play a live game. Even in the most friendly, low-stakes recreational match, there's a score.
Right. Somebody is always keeping track.
Exactly. There's an opponent across the net, there's a partner beside you who you don't want to let down, and there is the immediate overriding goal of just keeping the ball in play. And all of that creates external pressure.
And under pressure, the brain stops trying to learn and just goes into survival mode.
Yes. When a ball is rocketing towards your chest at 40 miles an hour, or you are scrambling backward to retrieve a lob, your brain completely abandons any fragile, newly acquired technique you've been thinking about.
It's just like, forget the form, just hit the ball.
Precisely. You aren't focusing on the kinetic chain or ensuring your weight transfers properly from your back foot to your front foot. Your brain simply searches its database for the most deeply ingrained, comfortable motor pattern it has, and it fires that pattern.
Okay, so let's say I've been trying to work on my third shot drop, but I haven't quite mastered it yet. In a game, the return comes deep to my backhand. I'm rushed, my weight is entirely on my heels, and instead of a smooth push from the shoulder, I just panic and flick my wrist. It's a completely sloppy shot.
Right.
But the ball accidentally clips the net cord, dribbles over, and we win the point.
And that right there is the danger. You executed a biomechanically flawed shot, but you achieved a successful outcome. Yeah, your brain receives a massive hit of dopamine. It registers the point one and basically says, whatever movement you just did to survive that situation, do it again next time.
It's like typing on a keyboard. I used to work with a guy who could type 80 words a minute, but he literally only used his 2 index fingers.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Just hunting and pecking.
Yeah, just hunting and pecking with blinding speed. If you sit down every day and type emails for 8 hours using only 2 fingers, you don't magically wake up a year later knowing how to touch type properly.
No, you just become incredibly efficient at typing the wrong way.
Right. You cement the bad technique so deeply that if I forced that guy to place all 10 fingers on the home row, it would feel agonizingly slow. It would feel completely wrong to him.
Yeah.
And that's what we are doing on the pickleball court when we just play games. We are just getting faster and faster at hitting the ball incorrectly.
And we can actually see this physical process happening in the brain. It comes down to a neurological mechanism called myelination. Every time you perform a physical action like swinging a paddle, an electrical signal fires down a specific pathway of neurons.
Okay, and the more you fire it, the stronger it gets.
More specifically, the body responds to that repeated signal by wrapping those neurons in a fatty substance called myelin. Think of myelin like the rubber insulation around a copper electrical wire.
Okay, I follow.
The thicker the insulation, the faster and more effortlessly the signal travels.
So the body is optimizing the pathway. It's basically trying to make whatever movement you do cost less energy.
Yes. But myelin is completely impartial. It does not judge the quality of your technique.
Oh, I see where this is going.
It doesn't know the difference between a perfectly balanced, beautifully executed dink and a panicky chicken-winged block where you completely broke your wrist. It just insulates the pathway that fires the most frequently.
Right.
So when you spend 2 hours rotating through open play, hitting hundreds of reactionary survival mode shots, you are heavily myelinating your flaws.
That is genuinely terrifying, because that means if you are just showing up and playing every day, you aren't just plateauing, you are actively digging yourself deeper into a hole that is going to be incredibly difficult to climb out of later.
You are making your mistakes permanent on a cellular level.
Okay, so if casual play is the trap that heavily myelinates our sloppy technique, the obvious answer is that we have to break that wiring. We need an antidote. Which brings us to the concept of limited, focused drilling.
Exactly.
If we want to override those bad habits, we have to intentionally build new neural pathways. But I have a huge question about the word limited. Why limited?
You are wondering why we wouldn't want to drill for hours on end to fix the problem faster.
Exactly. There's this pervasive hustle culture in sports. If drilling is the medicine that cures my awful backhand roll, shouldn't I be taking a massive dose? I mean, if I want to get better fast, I should get a hopper of 1,000 balls and stay on the court all afternoon, right?
It seems logical, but it ignores the reality of cognitive fatigue.
Hmm.
True athletic growth does not come from physical exhaustion. It comes from high-intensity intentionality.
High-intensity intentionality,
Yeah.
okay?
When you are trying to change a deeply ingrained motor pattern, you are asking your brain to do incredibly heavy lifting. You have to consciously override the old, thick myelin pathway and force the signal down a brand new, uninsulated pathway.
Which means you have to be hyper-aware of every single micro movement.
You have to monitor your grip pressure, the angle of the paddle face, your footwork, your split step, your follow-through. Maintaining that level of hyper-focused intentionality is mentally exhausting.
That makes a lot of sense.
Your cognitive energy depletes significantly faster than your physical stamina. You might have the cardiovascular endurance to run around a pickleball court for 3 hours, but your brain's ability to maintain perfect intentionality on a new mechanic might only last for 15 to 20 minutes.
Ah, I see. And the second that mental focus slips.
Your body silently and automatically reverts to the old, comfortable habit. And suddenly, you are out there for another hour, mindlessly hitting balls and actively remyelinating the exact flaw you were trying to eliminate.
Wow.
This is why the drilling must be limited. 50 highly conscious, mechanically perfect repetitions will transform your game. 500 sloppy, exhausted repetitions will ruin it.
Let's make this tangible for the listener. What does a high-intensity limited drill actually look like? Because I think a lot of people think drilling is just standing at the baseline and indiscriminately whacking balls at each other to warm up.
Let's use the dinking game as an example. A poorly executed drill is 2 players standing at the kitchen line, casually popping the ball back and forth while talking about their weekend, not really caring where the ball goes. A highly focused, limited drill, say, an isolation drill, is entirely different.
Paint the picture for us.
You and your partner are at the kitchen line, but you agree to only use half the court. You are only dinking cross-court. And your internal focus isn't just to get the ball over the net. Your focus is entirely mechanical.
Like thinking about the body mechanics.
Exactly. You're asking yourself, am I keeping my paddle out in front of my body? Am I pushing from the shoulder rather than flicking the wrist? Am I getting low using my legs instead of bending at the waist?
And crucially, there is no score.
Removing the score is vital. The moment you introduce a score, you reintroduce the threat response to the brain. You stop trying to perfect the mechanic, and you start trying to win the point. By removing the score, you create a psychologically safe environment for your nervous system to experiment. It is okay if the ball goes into the net. It is okay if you pop it up. The only failure is a failure to attempt the correct mechanic.
You are isolating the variable. It's like taking the timer away during a typing test. You can actually look down at your hands, consciously place your fingers on the right keys, and slowly press them without panicking about your words per minute.
That's a perfect analogy. And you do that focused cross-court dinking for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Once you feel your mental focus drifting or your legs getting lazy, you stop.
You just stop.
You stop. You do not push through the fatigue, because that is when the bad habits creep back in.
Let's talk about another massive pain point for players, which is the transition zone. Getting caught in no man's land. If a player is constantly getting burned because they were hitting a third shot drop and then just sprinting wildly toward the kitchen without stopping, how do they drill that out of their system?
That is a perfect candidate for a limited drill, because that running through the shot error is pure panic-induced momentum. To fix it, You set up a specific feed. Your partner stands at the kitchen line and feeds balls deep to your baseline.
Okay.
Your only job is to hit a drop shot, take exactly 2 steps forward, and execute a hard split step. You completely stop your momentum.
Even if the drop shot was terrible and your partner is about to slam the ball at your feet.
Especially then. In a game, you would panic and keep running, getting caught off balance. In the drill, you are teaching your body the discipline of the split step. You hit, you move, you stop, you evaluate.
Yeah.
You repeat that sequence 20 times. You are forging a new neurological link between hitting that specific shot and immediately establishing a balanced defensive posture.
Okay, so you put in the time. You limit your casual play, you endure the mental fatigue of these highly focused drills, and you rewire your muscle memory. Your technique is becoming flawless. You aren't chicken winging your blocks, your drops are smooth, and your split step is automatic. But here's the reality check. Having a beautifully fluid backhand doesn't mean you know when to use it. A flawless technique doesn't automatically translate to winning matches against smart opponents.
Which brings us to the crucial transition from physical execution to tactical mastery. You have evolved from someone who struggles to hit the ball to someone who can reliably execute the mechanics. But now, you have to learn how to control the flow of the game.
And how do we do that?
The only reliable bridge to that level of mastery is data-backed training.
Okay, I have to throw a flag on the play here. Data-backed training. I hear that, and I instantly think of professional analysts with clipboards and tracking software.
Yeah, sounds intense.
For the listener who just hits the local courts on a Tuesday evening, does introducing data and treating this like a geometry problem ruin the recreational joy of the sport? I mean, I don't want to be out there doing math homework. I want to have fun.
It's a completely understandable fear. We associate data with work, and we associate pickleball with play. But consider the alternative. Is it actually fun to be stuck at a 3.5 skill level for 3 years?
Well, no.
Is it fun to lose to the exact same team every week, feeling constantly frustrated because you have absolutely no idea why you are losing?
No, hitting a plateau is miserable. You feel like you are putting in the effort but going nowhere.
Right. True. Sustained enjoyment in any complex pursuit comes from mastery and growth. The joy of casual play is superficial. It's just moving your body. But the joy of tactical mastery is the joy of outthinking and outmaneuvering your opponent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It is deeply intellectually satisfying. Data-backed training doesn't kill the fun. It acts as the key to unlock a completely new, vastly more rewarding level of the game.
So, practically speaking, how does a normal player actually do this? Because if I'm playing a match, I'm trying to survive the rally. I cannot simultaneously be tallying my own unforced errors in my head. How do we capture this data without a massive spreadsheet?
You leverage the technology you already have, or you leverage your drilling partner. The most accessible method today is simply setting up your smartphone on a cheap tripod at the baseline. You just record your games.
Just a wide angle of the whole court?
Yes. And you don't need to watch the entire 2-hour session back in real time. You are looking for specific patterns. There are even inexpensive apps now that use AI to automatically edit out the dead time between points and track where your shots are landing.
Okay, so I have the footage. What am I actually looking for? Because I think most people just watch the tape to see their good shots and feel good about themselves.
You are looking for objective truth because human feelings are terrible liars. You might walk off the court thinking, man, my backhand was completely broken today. I kept missing.
He definitely had those days.
But when you watch the tape and track the data, you might discover that your backhand was actually fine. But 70% of your unforced errors happened when you attempted to speed up from below the net level.
So you were blaming the mechanic, but the data reveals the problem was actually your shot selection.
Exactly. Or maybe you notice a positional flaw. You watch the video and realize that every time you serve, you automatically take one step into the court and get stuck in no man's land, making the third shot impossibly difficult.
Wow.
You wouldn't notice that in the heat of the moment, but the camera doesn't lie.
If someone doesn't want to mess with cameras, how else can they track this?
This is where a dedicated drilling partner is invaluable. You go to open play together, but instead of both of you playing, one of you sits out for a game with a notebook, and they track just one specific metric for you.
So not a full statistical breakdown, just one focused variable.
Correct. You say, for this game, I only want you to tally every time I initiate a firefight at the kitchen line and whether we win or lose that point. And your partner just makes tick marks.
Okay.
At the end of the game, you look at the notebook, and it says you sped the ball up 12 times, and you lost the point 9 of those times.
That is a brutal reality check, but it's so actionable.
It takes all the emotion and guesswork out of your evaluation. You are no longer practicing randomly. You now know with absolute certainty that you need to spend your next drilling session either improving your speed-up mechanics or training yourself to be more patient and keep dinking instead of pulling the trigger too early.
You basically surgically attack your weaknesses, and that is where the transition from checkers to chess really happens. Because once you understand your own data, you start understanding the geometry of the court.
You step onto the court not as a passive participant reacting to whatever comes over the net, but as a tactician. You know that your cross-court dink is your highest percentage shot. You start observing your opponent's data in real time, noticing that they always pop up backhand dinks that land short.
So you intentionally feed them short backhand dinks.
Yes, you aren't just hitting a shot to get it over. You are hitting a shot specifically to force a weak return so you can put away the next ball. You are setting traps.
And that level of strategic anticipation is incredibly fun. But you can only achieve that if you have done the unglamorous work. You have to use the focused drills to physically build the tools, and you have to use the data to understand exactly how and when to deploy them.
It really is a complete philosophical shift in how we approach our time on the court.
To synthesize everything we've explored today, if you truly want to advance, if you are tired of being stuck at that plateau, you have to be willing to make a trade.
You have to sacrifice the immediate, easy gratification of mindless casual play.
Right. You trade the fun of just knocking the ball around for the delayed but ultimately massive reward of tactical mastery. And that mastery is only forged through limited, highly intentional drilling and honest, data-driven self-evaluation.
It requires discipline. It requires suppressing your ego enough to look at your flaws objectively. But when you do that, you stop the cycle of reinforcing your bad habits, and you take conscious, deliberate control of your own athletic development.
You stop playing to win meaningless recreational games, and you start playing to improve. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a challenging question to mull over the next time you pack your paddle bag. Think about this. If you were to set up a tripod, record your very next casual game, and sit down to look at the cold, hard data of your movements, not what you felt you did, but what you actually did, what invisible bad habit would you discover you've been actively perfecting for months?
It's a mirror to look into.
It really is. But finding that answer and being honest about it is the first step toward true mastery. Thank you for listening to Pickleball Partner, the podcast, and we look forward to the next deep dive.